Hello, everybody. Thanks for joining us here on the Ice. Wayne's World Edition, part one, of course, which my good friend Wayne Kosior. Wayne has got a little bit different background. Yes, he is now in the world headquarters, Trailblazer Hockey, downtown Regina, Saskatchewan. Good evening, Wayne. Thanks for joining me. Quite a busy weekend on the professional hockey, junior hockey. Everything's getting wrapped up, but a tremendous week ahead of us, which we will get to in a second. First and foremost, you and I called the preview. It was pretty easy to call because it's the two powerhouses of the East, the Oil Kings out of Edmonton and my very own Winnipeg Ice. Heading into the East Finals, let's talk a little about that. Give me a preview, Wayne, of what you see about to happen.
Well, I think it's going to be a great series, probably one of the best series coming up here because, again, as you said, both these teams kind of, built their lineup and made a lot of trades at the deadline to prepare themselves for this. So, I think it's going to be a great series. I'm still putting my money on Edmonton. My bet is Edmonton in 6. And I base that primarily on the fact of, in playoffs, I'm a big believer that the teams with the goaltending and the defense win. And I just rate the Oil Kings a little bit ahead of the Ice in that factor. Although, I think the Ice maybe has more firepower up front. And what do you think?
I'm saying you fight fire with fire. Where the fire in Edmonton comes from the defense, the offense of Winnipeg has been tremendous all year. And you mentioned the defense and the goaltending perspective. I believe it was Winnipeg that also had the number one ranked defense as well. So as good as Edmonton is and how veteran Edmonton is on the back end, Winnipeg still had a pretty good netminder, a couple of good netminders, and a really solid defense group. I think the mix of goal scoring from their young three in Bedson, Savoy, and Geeky at the same time with their veterans that are aging out this year truly is a really great balance for the Ice. And I'm going to take the Ice in 6 just because, not because I'm a homer, but because I look at their lineup and I really see, they have not as strong a defense, but their offense is unreal. And outside of throwing a gentleman who's 16 years old from Regina in that mix, quite frankly, Winnipeg's pretty potent up front.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. And I mean, Winnipeg has that unique ice surface. It's a different size in Winnipeg, so that might play in their advantage too. But either way, I think it's going to be a great series. And it seems like we both agree it's going to go 6. And I guess we'll just see in the end who's right and who's wrong.
We'll call it a friendly bet, Wayne. We won't put anything on it. We'll just call it a friendly. But also, we have to consider transportation and travel could be quite a deal. So I think even in the NHL, they have smaller transportation deals right now for round 2. Winnipeg Edmonton is the largest stretch that they usually have done throughout the year because of the East Division. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, that's going to be a long road trip type thing. So I haven't even looked to see if they're going to go 2-3-2 or if they're going to go with the traditional 2-2 and then 1-1-1.
I have no idea either. It'll be interesting to see because that will play a role when it comes to after 4 games, who's on top, and if it will be a battle of 3 or battle of 2-3 or, someone will be up 3-1. So we'll see what happens.
Absolutely.
Let's get to the bigger picture because also a bigger picture is the Centennial Cup and it's how it's wound up. Toronto finally punched in the final ticket as the representative for the Ontario Junior Hockey League, but there's 9 teams representing the entire country in Estevan, Saskatchewan, maybe more than a 9-iron from Regina, but fairly close. The teams and this setup is only for the 1 year. And as much as we don't know what's going to happen in the future, we don't want to get a crystal ball, but I really like having 9 teams in the Centennial Cup. It's exciting. It allows everyone to be there. 2 teams from the SJ this year. Actually, 2 from Manitoba, really, when you think about it. I mean, Flin Flon and the Dauphin Kings. What do you take on the format? What do you like most about it? Is Brooks really still the powerhouse to beat?
Yeah, well, first of all, on the format, I think it's fabulous. And, I think this is going to go over well to the attendees and the viewers online and on TV and stuff because it's just going to be nice to have so many teams. I mean, 10 different teams. So you're going to see lots of variety. A lot of great games over. I think the event runs about 10 days and stuff. And it's just going to be nice to see how the teams you mentioned, Brooks. I mean, they're a perennial powerhouse, but, to see how they and all the leagues compare with each other, right from the Maritime Hockey League all the way out to the Alberta Junior Hockey League and everything in between. I think we're going to see some great matchups. It'll be interesting to see if there is any blowouts. And of course, in any one game, there can be a blowout. It doesn't necessarily indicate the levels of the league type thing and stuff. But I'm super excited about it. I think the fans are. I'm going to try to get out there if I can get some tickets and then take in some of the games and see some of these new teams from the various leagues across Canada.
No doubt. Do you think, now this is something we haven't talked about real much, but do you think the omission of BC and the BC Hockey League will play a part of the Centennial? And do you think there'll be comparisons or the wonderings and what ifs after this tournament, considering BC's not involved?
Yeah, I'm sure there will be, but when you have a Brooks in there that I would argue that Brooks can compare with any BCHL team that exists, including the Penticton Bees. So I think BC would be in a battle themselves there, type thing. So those are my thoughts. And what are you thinking?
I'm thinking the same thing. Just it's going to be the what if, but guess what? I mean, you chose your dance, you chose your role, and you decided not to be a part of it. So don't squibble and squam and cry foul and all that jazz. The bottom line is you said you're going to roll this way. You wanted your league to do this. Well, guess what? The Centennial Cup might be better off without the Western Province there. I don't know. We'll wait and find out because the 10 teams that are there are rightfully deserving. And I think we're going to see the levels of competition / parity in all leagues, considering we have champions of each league represented. And it's not just, regional representation. It's actual provincial representation this year. Ontario has more teams, of course, just because of their geography. But nonetheless, Red Lake and Toronto versus Brooks and the Sioux and Estevan throws in there. You got small towns versus metropolitans. It's going to be interesting and exciting to watch. And I look forward to seeing some of the results. I do think, when push comes to shove, the teams that have been ranked in the top 5 throughout the entire year will, rise to the top. They will be the team to beat. And unless they have critical injury or setback, I don't see them, faltering at all.
I would agree with you.
Last topic of the evening, Wayne. This is something that grows very close to our hearts. And, preparation was always, as a younger kid, you go to camp in September, you play a couple of early camps, maybe late August, the conditioning camp, if you will. You meet your team and you're on your go. Well, that plan has gone through the window and it's been kicked out. And now preparations for a season ahead even occur while the current season is still ongoing. For those that don't have the commitment to junior or AAA or even AA programs, what is the next step for them now that most of these camps and showcases are almost in completion?
Yeah, so as you alluded to, Theo, the landscape has kind of changed in how these tryouts work now and how the commitments work and stuff. And, I think one of the things that is happening now is more and more junior teams are using camps as kind of a fundraiser. So essentially, the more camps they have, the more revenue they make. So regretfully, that's not good for players and families, but it is the reality. The other thing that is happens now is probably upwards of 15 roster spots are committed to by teams by about this time of year, or by June 1st would be a good deadline. So really anybody that's going to a fall camp is competing for those final 4 or 5 roster spots. So you just got to know that going in, because it means that you have to be very, very selective and do your homework on which camp you're going to go to. Because if you don't make that team and you get cut in September, there's not a lot of other options left for you other than maybe getting picked up by another competitive team in that same league. Or, as I always recommend to my players, is you got to have a good plan B in place already. And typically that's a commitment at a league lower than the camp you're going to in the fall.
How much of that, you talk about plan A and plan B, obviously every player wants plan A to happen. Mm-hmm. But that diamond in the rough when plan B occurs can possibly be the right choice after all. Now, we won't know that, of course, but I mean, when you look at your opportunities, you have to weigh the pros and the cons. Obviously, competition and playing level. Playing time is another one when you consider, potentially being a first liner at one league versus a third or a fourth liner in a higher league. Geography plays a role, and for some student athletes, it's the academy aspect, and how much of an education you're getting while playing hockey. So those are there any other factors you can consider while ranking your plan A, plan Bs, Wayne?
Well, I think you've kind of gave a pretty comprehensive list there, Theo, and those are all valid points and what players need to think about, when they're going to these fall camps. And, certainly I always recommend to our players that if you're going to be one of those bubble players, depth, certainly a fourth line player, you're much better off to go to the lower level and be a star there. And then there's always a chance you could get called up to the higher level mid-season, and then you're more ready to play and maybe a more meaningful role, maybe on the third line and or second line. Because if you're buried in a third or fourth line, first of all, you're not going to get a lot of ice time. And second of all, you could even end in the stands a lot, sitting and getting watched or getting scratched and watching and stuff. So those aren't good for player development, and it's not good for exposure to teams even at the higher leagues and stuff. So I think those are some things that the players and families need to think about. And I also think players and families need to do a soul check when they're going to these camps and really self-assess their skills and abilities, accurately and honestly, versus trying to kid themselves that they maybe are a better player than they aren't. Because certainly, you set yourself up for failure if you go to a camp and you're thinking you're better than you are, because you'll soon find out the coaches will figure that out.
You alluded to building that skill set and that player development, riding the pine, so to speak, versus being that top six forward. The importance of a player at the adolescent early years, 15 to 17, and the bubble, playing to your abilities and exceeding your abilities and reaching those goals certainly helps a player develop also a self-esteem and the culture of playing at a great level still, while not hurting their emotions, not hurting their, lack of play per se by always being in the bench, always sitting in the stands. It's great to hear that you're playing for an MJ team or an AJ team, but if you look at your friends and they're playing AAA hockey and lighting lamps, and you could be one of those kids that could say, damn, I really wish I could have been lighting the lamp. And all I'm really hanging my hat on is that I played junior hockey when I was 17.
Yeah, and it's very true. And I think, for those that don't know, we do have a monthly webinar series with Trailblazer Hockey, and it's typically, somebody that's gone on to the NHL or to the Olympics or to higher levels of hockey, wherever, maybe it's even just the WHL or Junior A. I think every single player has told a story how they were cut at a relatively old age. And when I say old, I'm saying, by 16, 17, where they got cut from a team that, they couldn't make. Yet these players typically have gone on to the highest levels, including the NHL and Olympic gold. And so it's just a good lesson for players and parents, I think, that you got to go at your own pace. Don't be in a rush. Play at the level that's right for you, where you can develop and get key minutes, and good things will happen.
So the question we got to ask is, you aren't committed to a team. What do you do? And how do you make sure that you're not extending yourself too far by, going to 2 men? Like, we've obviously had a lot of camps have happened, but you still aren't sitting on the fence. You don't have that commitment. Do you continue to go to camps? Do you continue to work on yourself? What's the best plan of attack for these next couple of months?
Well, I think first of all, you should narrow down your focus, and I wouldn't say going to a whole bunch more camps is the right answer. I think you're better off to do your homework, find that right one or two teams that you zero in on, that you feel is the best opportunity based on the players that they're turning over, maybe your relationship with the coach and how much he likes you. Again, I always tell our players the coach has to love you, and if he doesn't love you, he loves someone else. And so you just got to make sure there's a good connection and a good fit there. If you're going in kind of as 100% unknown and you really don't have a history with the coach or somebody involved in that decision making that really likes how you play, I mean, your chances are a real long shot and stuff. So the more homework that you can do in advance, self-assess your fit and the opportunity, the more likely you'll have success type thing. And like I say, there's no guarantees. There's very few spots open come fall time. And so if you're going in as an unknown, you're going to have to really light it up.
Absolutely. You got to make your name known, but at the same time, it's best to make your name known when you are at a high as opposed to question mark, if you will. Wayne, Coach, I'd like to thank you so much for joining me today. Really appreciate it. The office looks great. The view is even better. I mean, I must say. Not the view is, no, the view is exactly as I would picture it. Just a bit more skyline and more skyscrapers. What do you think?
Yeah, it's a beautiful office we have here at Trailblazer Hockey, and certainly welcome if any of our clients or prospective clients are in Regina. We'd love to have you stop by and have a coffee and see our gorgeous office space and views that we have.
Fabulous, Wayne. And good luck if you head out to the Centennial Cup. It should be a great tilt nonetheless. Thanks so much for joining me. We'll see you next week in the middle of it.
Sounds great, Theo. Have a great week.
You as well. Take care, Wayne. And that was Wayne Kosior with us here on the ice. He'll be in Regina today, as well as heading to the Centennial Cup. Speaking of the Centennial Cup, my good friend Darnell Duff, he is the play-by-play and the voice of the Dauphin Kings. They announced their ticket. They punched their ticket last week. Quite the exciting call for Double D. We're going to have him on next on the ice. Stay with us as we get his insight and his future trips to Estevan and his plans to travel. Take care. We'll see you soon, right after the break.
Welcome to Pilot Mountain Hockey Academy, your world-class academic and hockey training facility created to maximize each student's athletic and academic potential. Blackjack Stewart Arena, home of the Buffalo, is inside the 46,000 square foot complex, as well as a curling rink and other facilities. The students have a unique combination of successful, well-rounded education at Pilot Mountain Collegiate Institute and the professional hockey training in an encouraging community. The years of experience of on-ice coaching propel our students to the next level, both mentally and physically, in a professional environment.
Back here on the ice, ASTV, brought to you by Doak Spokefields, Case Financial Group, Toby Hockey, and the Pilot Mountain Hockey Academy. Joining me, the play-by-play and the announcing, the voice of the Dauphin Kings, the MJHL champions of 2022, Darnell Duff. Double D, it's great to see you. How you been, my friend?
Theo, first of all, appreciate always enjoy coming on the show. Still riding a high, obviously, from last Wednesday. It's crazy. I started working with this team when they were 14-44, 1-1 back 5 years ago, and now, literally started at the bottom, and it's a song now we hear, but pretty unreal final against the Pistons. All credit to them. They're 20-year-old graduating players. They had one heck of a battle, but ultimately, the Kings were the Kings of the MJHL, and what a thrill it is.
Kings, the name suits it well. How about that? The bottom line is, I think you and I talked earlier in January when we were supposed to have a showcase between the MJ and the SJ, and we looked at the top teams. We looked at Steinbach. We talked about Steinbach. We talked about Wei. We talked about Dauphin. But what was it that put Dauphin above everybody so that, quite frankly, that Game 7 could have gone either way. But what was it that Dauphin did better than Steinbach?
Well, I think you have to look in net first. Carson Cherepek, the MJHL goaltender of the year for a reason. He was the MJHL Finals goaltender of the series. He was absolutely incredible. He made a breakaway save on Travis Hensrud with just about 90 seconds left in Game 7. Just an unreal flash of the leather. If Hensrud would have scored that goal, it would have been a 2-2 game and probably destined for overtime. And For fans, yes, the excitement, you always want overtime, but for the players and the coaches, I think overtime is something you want to stay away from because, one bad bounce, whatever happens, the puck could be in the back of your own net. For the Kings, they avoided overtime, which was a good thing. And then you just look at the depth of this team, like on the brink of elimination in Game 6, a guy in Garrett Herechka, hometown boy, scored 6 goals all season long. He scored the game winner to force game number 7. The depth, and even, the first line for the Kings, Caden Bryant, Nakoden Gray Eyes, and Nick Braun, never really got it going throughout the series. And it just begs the question is how good can this Kings team be if the first line actually gets it going? Logan Calder, he was brought in from Portage at the trade deadline. He was miraculous, had an unreal goal in Game 7 where he sticked down the puck at the left blue line, skated down to the side of the circles on the left side, snapped it past Will Hambly, and then Braden Doobie, a 16-year-old, scored the biggest goal of his career, literally sent the Dauphin Kings to the national championship. You're not going to have many 16-year-olds that are going to have that capability. On the back end, Parker Malchuk, Colby Jaquette, Jaden Jubinville. Just the depth of this team was so strong. With that being said, it was a 1-goal game in Game 7. So I don't know if it's necessarily what the Kings did a whole lot better than the Steinbach Pistons. I just think, and I don't even know if the Kings were the better team in Game 7. I mean, they were outshot handily and, gave up some really good chances that Cherepak had to make some big saves. But at the end of the day, they were able to get that one key marker, that one extra marker. And at the end of the day, it's about putting the puck in the back of the net, capitalizing on your opportunities. The Kings had 47 shots in Game 6. They had just 2 goals. So it's not necessarily how many shots you get. It's the quality you get and putting the puck in the back of the net. And ultimately, that's where the Kings were able to shine and, raise that trophy.
The final call happened last Wednesday with you, Darnell, on with the Dauphin Kings. Now that you're heading to Estevan this upcoming week, heading out on Tuesday or Wednesday, I believe. What is it for you, and how exciting is it for you to be able to join the Kings and head to Estevan in a new formatted Centennial Cup? Give me some thoughts on your take on the new setup for this year and what you like most about it.
Well, I think, first of all, I do love the format. 10 teams, and you're getting representatives from literally coast to coast, other than the BC Hockey League, who are no longer part of Hockey Canada. I love they're going how the World Juniors format is top 3 in each team. So I think it allows for players perhaps that wouldn't get that chance to play national championship, talking about Summerside and having to play some of the Ottawa area teams to clinch a spot. It just doesn't happen on a year-by-year basis. So I think it's going to be interesting to see some of these teams that you wouldn't see in a normal year. And it gives those players an opportunity to play under the brightest lights of Hockey Canada. As I've heard in the past, that organizers always do an incredible job. So really looking forward to seeing some new teams. The parity out there, the Brooks Bandits, I would assume are probably going to be the favorites because they have been unbelievable all season long. But just on a personal myself, it's just, I don't know if it's going to be a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. I don't know if I'll get another opportunity to call a national championship, but I'm going in that, it's going to be a once-in-a-lifetime. Like, this is the biggest stage of them all. I internally, I'm probably going to be feeling some pressure, learning some new players' names from all the 4 round robin games, and then perhaps, if the Kings can get past. But just really looking forward to soaking in the experience, spending a lot of time at the rink, and just enjoying every single second that comes with being in a national championship. And also, you're there, but you're not there just for fun. You're there to try and win the title. So looking forward to continuing calling the Kings journey. I know my voice has had its work cut out for it over the past few weeks with some sickness and whatnot. But just looking forward to being a part of the national championship experience. Upwards of maybe 2 weeks in Estevan. Really looking forward to it.
Darnell, can I get you to turn up just a little bit? I can barely hear you there.
Yeah, sorry, my bad.
There we go. Awesome. No problem. Do you think Dolphins got the chance to surprise some teams? I mean, Brooks has been that number 1 team the entire year, but we've got some unknown teams just because they haven't been given that accolade over the course of the entire season. I mean, we're looking at the Maritimes, we're looking at the teams from Quebec, the Red Lake Miners of the SI. I mean, do any of these teams have a chance, and can Dolphins surprise some people?
Yeah, I would say, I would think as far as the 10 teams come, I think you have to start with the Brooks Bandits. I mean, they're going to be number one for sure. The Estevan Bruins, of course, are hosting their SJHL champions. They're expected to be in, the 2-3 range. The Ottawa Junior Senators had a really strong season in the CCHL, and the Kings open up their round robin against Ottawa on Friday. So that could be a real telling tale of what the Kings perhaps could do if they can, find a way to get the job there and ride some momentum. But this is a team that has a lot of skill, as mentioned, that depth from top to bottom, and they have one of the best goaltenders, not only in the MJHL, but just from what I've seen from across Canada. Carson Cherapek is the real deal. He's a Division I goaltender, in my opinion. No team has scooped him up yet, but I think the team that does ultimately in the end is going to be very pleased with what he's going to bring to the team, because he can make some big time saves. He's cool, he's calm, he's collected. And then defensively, we have a bunch of 20-year-olds, starting with Colby Jaquette and Parker Malchuk, that really like to set the tempo. Then you have a rookie in Jaden Jubinville, who is one of the crispest skaters I've seen. And then up front, you even go down to the fourth line, as mentioned. Garrett Horechka had a big goal, but I think the first line for the Kings has to get going. If that first line can get going, this is a team that I really do believe, believes in themselves. Of course, you want to win a national championship. You want to be in the national gold medal, but it all starts with game number one and a real good test. I think it's a great way to start the Nationals. Get that good test, probably one of the top tests in the pool, other than the Flin Flon Bombers. Get them going, get it started on Friday, work hard, get prepared. I know the team is heading out on Tuesday afternoon, so a full practice on Wednesday, and then Thursday as well, a little practice at the alternate rink, and then it all comes down to game time on Friday. But I think this is a Kings team that they believe in themselves, and I think that's honestly the biggest thing. And why not? I mean, you take down the Steinbach Pistons, who are a proven champion. They're always right there at the end of the MJHL season, so to take them down is a big accomplishment, and I know they're ready for the journey to continue.
As much as you love Game 7s, Darnell, how many Game 7s did you watch in the round one with the NHL this past playoff?
Incredible. I mean, it's like that. That Washington series had the chance to go to a Game 7, and if it did, every series in the Eastern Conference would have been 7 games. And then you go into the Western Conference, a great series in Calgary and Dallas. That was an unbelievable Game 7. Edmonton and LA, it wasn't a super exciting Game 7, but it worked out for Edmonton. Tampa and Toronto was a really exciting Game 7 as well. I mean, this is what it's all about. It really is the best time of the year. You're having these teams, and I think in the NHL this year, there are so many teams that can win a championship, and that's just what makes it so exciting. I'm really pulling, obviously, for the Oilers. I would love the Florida Panthers to get the job done, just for Jumbo Joe, what he's done over his career. But what a thriller of a first round. Now the Battle of Alberta in the second round. You have the Battle of Florida. There are some real good series coming up. I mean, the Colorado Avalanche seem to be on cruise control clearly in the first round against the Nashville Predators. Not so sure it's going to be that easy in the second round, but a lot of excitement if you're a hockey fan. This is certainly the best time of the year.
Does Colorado benefit from having almost over a week off, or would you have rather seen them take 6 games?
Yeah, I think I don't know if you benefit from getting that much time off. I mean, with just how strong they were in the regular season, where at times they didn't have to go, full tilt. They didn't have to give 100% to get the job done, just based on where they were. And then you go into Nashville and you beat them 4 straight games and you get a sizable break. I don't know if it's a benefit. I don't know if it's a detriment. I don't think it's going to help them necessarily, hurt them, I should say, necessarily. But I think in an ideal world, I think, 3 or 4 days would have been off, opposed to 6 or 7. But, that's just a personal opinion. That team is just so good, and they're going to be real tough to stop.
What happens in Toronto now?
I mean, I don't know. I mean, they have a solid roster. I don't think Jack Campbell is the guy. I don't think Campbell was poor in Game 7, but I don't think he is the guy. But there has to be something. I think Kyle Dubas has done a pretty decent job of finding a way to ice a pretty darn good roster that at the end of the day just isn't able to get the job done. And you saw Austin Matthews say after the game, we're right there. Well, that's what has been said for the last couple of years. Like, we're right there, but they continue to lose in the first round. Now, sure, they're going up against some juggernauts. I mean, you're going up against the two-time defending Stanley Cup champion Tampa Bay Lightning. No journey for Toronto in the playoffs is easy, but you would just think that eventually they're going to be able to go over the hurdle. Like, I don't know if there's going to be any coaching changes or front office changes coming up in the offseason, but I can't say I'm surprised they're not going into the second round. I mean, but I think if they did get past Tampa, they were a team to be reckoned with. They just had to get past the Lightning, but they didn't.
Just that hurdle. I found it interesting to see in the game 7, you had Kyle Dubas in the press box or upstairs at the Rogers, and then you saw Brendan Shanahan at ice level. And you rarely see the two of them in the same room as much anymore. I'm going to leave that as a question mark. We'll see what happens. But Toronto, I mean, they have a great lineup, great roster, built top to bottom. And yeah, goaltending is what you need. I mean, the bottom line, I mean, Vasilevsky or Campbell, what are you going to take in the playoff series? It's a no-brainer.
It's as simple as that. And, I think the one big key area they have to look for is goaltending. I think Jack has been pretty solid during his time, has a pretty cool story, but he's not the guy. I look at all the playoff goalies right now, I would take Jack near the bottom of all remaining if they were to make it. So I think that's a problem area for them. But I mean, on the back end up front, they're so dynamic, led by Austin Matthews. This is a team that they should be rolling into the second, third round every single year. But now, it's just another first round exit. A lot of turmoil there. And you have to also question, is Sheldon Keefe the guy to lead this roster? That's another question. I mean, there's been praise by him, by general manager, and by all the players, but something has to give. And I don't know. When you bring up Shanahan and Dubas, perhaps that connection isn't working for them anymore, and maybe something is going to happen. But if you're the Toronto Maple Leafs going forward into next year, I know there's still a lot of playoff hockey this year, but you have to work your way up and get past the first round.
Have you joined the Barry Trotz to Winnipeg bandwagon? I mean, you've talked to Barry in previous years, Dauphin boy, tremendous coach, accolades galore. What type of coach does Winnipeg need?
Well, I think the coach they need is the coach that Barry Trotz is. First of all, I think it would be an incredible PR move. I mean, he's from Manitoba. He has family here in the Dauphin area. So season ticket prices or, sales, I think, would go through the roof in now times where people are almost giving away their tickets to Jets games, because that's just how it has gone with the price of tickets and with the mediocre play on the ice. Fans are giving away their tickets. And, not long ago, they had a string where not even close to a sellout several games. They need something to change. So I think it's, first of all, a great PR move. But at the end of the day, it's not all about PR. PR is a big thing these days with all the media. But you're bringing in a coach that turned around Alexander Ovechkin, a guy who was horrible defensively. He was a defensive liability. His plus-minus was poor. Come in, Trotz turned Ovechkin around. All of a sudden, he became a 200-foot player, was still that dynamic offensive sniper, but he was held accountable in his defensive zone. That is what the Winnipeg Jets certainly need. They need a new spark. They need a guy like Barry Trotz. So in my opinion, when you have the opportunity, if they do, to bring in a Stanley Cup winning coach, bring in a guy that is from Manitoba that is going to up the season ticket sales, it's really a no-brainer in my opinion. Now, it might not be as easy as that, but if I'm Chevy, if I'm giving Barry Trotz what he wants to get him here and to see if he can turn around this organization, because I don't think there's many coaches out there like Trotz that could.
I think what you mentioned about Ovi is exactly what Mark Scheifele needs. I don't want to lose someone like Scheif. I don't want to have that crew get dismembered. I think it's still a really good nucleus we have here. The bottom line is we need someone that's going to lead. And I couldn't agree with you more, Darnell. Thanks so much for appreciating that.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much skill. There's so much skill with the Winnipeg Jets. And I mean, you have Connor Hellebuck, a Vezina winner, whether you like Hellebuck or whether you don't like him. I'm not a big Connor Hellebuck guy, but at the end of the day, he's a Vezina winner for a reason. On the back end, you have some solid talent, Neil Pionk, Josh Morrissey. Up front, I mean, Kyle Connor's coming off an incredible year they have to be held accountable. Like the comments being made in the middle of the season from Scheifele, we don't have a team identity. You're a leader. It's up to you to, forge that identity forward. But I think it's just the kind of guy he is. Barry Trotz, if he comes in, I think he can really forge an identity in the dressing room, makes them accountable on and off the ice, offensive zone, defensive zone. And I really think that would heavily help the Jets and push them in the right direction.
Well, Darnell, I want to thank you for your time today. Really appreciate it. Good luck hosting and getting to know all the names you haven't called all season. I know you're up to the task, and we look forward to seeing how well Dolphin does in this upcoming Centennial Cup in Estevan. Really appreciate the time.
Yeah, what I've been saying, Theo, lately is I guess the Centennial Cup, we're going to really see what I'm made of if I can get down those names. 4 games, 4 new teams in 6 days, but looking forward to the challenge, looking forward to being under the bright lights and can't wait. So appreciate the kind words and awesome show you have, and I appreciate coming on.
Darnell Duff here, the voice of the Dauphin King, 7:30 CKADM. He's heading out this week, and he's going to have the play-by-play. Good luck, Darnell, and have a wonderful show. That'll wrap it up for everybody tonight. Thank you so much for joining us here on the ice. Again, brought to you our sponsors, Case Financial Group, Dokes Folk Fuels, Toby Hockey, and the Pilot Mountain Hockey Academy. We'll be back on Thursday as well, 6 o'clock start time. Thanks for joining us, bringing more goodness to the greatness here on ASTV. Take care of yourselves, take care of your neighbors, and hopefully we get some of these rising waters to drop a little bit. There's a little bit too much water here. Wouldn't you agree, all of our fellow Manitobans? Take care. Take care of yourself, each other. Have a great evening. Bye-bye for now.